Hey guys, and welcome back to another Wimbledon Daily podcast. It is day 2 of media. I'm here with Liam. Liam, how have you found it, firstly?
It's been very, I would say, calmer compared to yesterday. I mean, you guys might have listened to yesterday's episode, and I mean, we were running around from room to room the entire day today. Players usually try and have the day before the start of a Grand Slam a little bit more private. They spend time with their team, their family. They get their few, little bits and bobs in terms of their game style, trying to practice the last few things before the tournament actually starts. So you get less players doing the interviews, but we've had some very, very good names, the likes of Swiatek, Pegula, Fonseca, Barbara Krejcikova, Stefano Tsitsipas, Lorenzo Musetti. We're going to be also talking to Taylor Fritz in a little bit. That's the last interview of the day. So it's been a good day so far. Of course, there's going to be a lot more to come. What do you think has been sort of the most interesting aspects of the interview so far?
Yeah, there's a lot. Before we do get into it, though, of course, let's mention our sponsor for the podcast, Nick Rivets Sport. Check them out for online racket demo services. I've used them myself. Very good service. And of course, for anything tennis equipment, check it out in the link or in the description of this podcast on YouTube and obviously all podcast platforms as well. Yeah, on the interview, so there were a lot of good questions, good answers. Didn't get too many questions today that were non-tennis related, which is great. I'm sure that will come during the first week because it wasn't a packed media day by any stretch, according to at least last year anyway, where I remember, especially in the second week, we had some interesting questions. But Tsitsipas for me was definitely a standout. You can hear that interview in full, but essentially just talking a little bit about his racket setup. He obviously went from the blade to the aero, then back to the blade, talking about why he switched back from the aero to the blade. He didn't specifically say he was using the Aero 98 because he can't, because it's a Babolat product. He's sponsored by Wilson, but that was quite interesting. And obviously managed to talk to Swiatek as well. She just talked a little bit about how she's feeling more comfortable on grass. She feels like she's playing the best she has in her career so far. Probably helped by the fact that she didn't make the final of Roland Garros or win it, so she's had a bit more time to adapt. You spoke to a number of players as well, including the champion Barbara Krejcikova from last year as well. What were your thoughts on some of the interviews?
Yeah, so I mean, speaking to Barbara, she's obviously very direct in her interviews. She doesn't really mess around too much. You've had a few journalists, trying to get information out of her, trying to get maybe a soundbite out of her. She doesn't really budge. I asked her, how her preparation has been, especially because she did withdraw from Eastbourne because of her thigh, and so I was just trying to understand how she's feeling. She says she needed a couple days off to just rest and recover. Sometimes the thigh is one of those injuries where you don't really know how long it can officially take, unless you're conducting proper MRIs and spending time, with a lot of physical trainers to sort of get yourself physically prepared. We touched upon this with Lorenzo Musetti as well. I'll get on that in a second. So she feels confident that she can play well. She just needs to see her level in the first round, of course, and it's always a bit of a, when you're the defending champ coming in and you're just coming off of an injury, it's not the best, but it's something you have to deal with. And we spoke about that with Musetti as well. Obviously he's not the defending champ, but he is defending semi-final from last year. So a lot of points to defend there, but even if he doesn't defend them, he's still a top 10 player because he's had such an amazing run over the last 12 months. And, I asked him, what was your schedule looking like in terms of getting back on court, physiotherapy, recovery, just day to day after withdrawing from the French Open. And he said basically he didn't touch a single racket for 2 weeks. He basically spent the time every day doing physiotherapy, training in terms of, in the pool, in those scenarios that all these high performance athletes train in to sort of recover faster from injuries. The injury would have taken about a month or so to recover from the full. I believe it was a left abductor tear, grade 1 tear. And he said, usually it takes about 1 month to recover from that. Doctors were telling him, you can accelerate this process as you're an athlete and you're still young by doing all of these things. So it took him about 2.5 weeks. He said he spent a lot of time with his family and just trying to regroup as well. And he feels good coming in here. Obviously, he's only been at Wimbledon since Monday, and he had a little bit of an illness. He had a little bit of a cold at the start of the week, so he actually didn't get on court until about Tuesday, Wednesday, I believe. So not the best of preparations, but also, there are players who have travelled, who have played 2 matches and lost 2 matches, or lost 2 out of 3 matches in Halle, in Queens, or in Bad Homburg or anything like that, and they haven't found their form really, and they've had to travel here. So he's been here a little bit longer, maybe had a little bit more of a base to settle in, and hopefully he can do well throughout this fortnight.
Yeah, I mean, it's a quick turnaround between Roland Garros and Wimbledon, so the competitive match plays, and the issue is just really how much time has he had on the grass playing against a lot of different players, and getting that ball speed. I guess getting used to the ball speed of the courts as well, because it's fine to play in practice, but obviously it's always different when it comes to matches as well. But one thing that he's got to his advantage is that he's a player that plays a lot of variety, so he'll be able to play in different ways and navigate the first few rounds. I don't think, from what I remember, his first few rounds are too difficult, so he should hopefully navigate through those, and then we'll see as the draw obviously continues. But I guess he's done the best he could do, right? You said it's a month, and then it only took him 2.5 weeks, so that's pretty good going, and he just did the best of what he was able to do, really, and that's all he could do. So hopefully he will be fit and ready and raring to go, because, as you said, he made the semi-finals here last year. He had a very good clay court swing, so hopefully he can continue to play at that really high level into Wimbledon and beyond as well. You mentioned Barbara Krejcikova and that she doesn't really give much away, and I think the American journalist, obviously one of the guys from ESPN, loves to add on to his first question, and he was obviously looking for her to give a lot of, I think, a lot more than what she was willing to give, but essentially she was happy with the 1-word answers, 2-word answers, because that's the type of person she is. If she's not sure, she'll just say, I don't know, to be fair. But she was clearly happy to be here. She smiled and laughed when someone talked about her lifting the trophy, saying she was surprised, that she was even in the position to be given it. So that was interesting. But she's got a tricky first round opponent in Alexandra Eala, who I spoke to, and she's lost a heartbreaking Eastbourne final to Maya Joint, lost it 12-10 in the final set tiebreak, had 4 match points. I spoke to her. She only played yesterday, that final, so she's come here today. Managed to ask her a couple of questions. The first one was just around the media attention, because, like Liam, you'll know as well, she has blown up on social media because she's the only recognizable tennis player in the Philippines. The Philippines is a big country for people that don't know, and they really get behind their athletes. As one of the Filipino reporters told me today, and they're very big on social media. And then also the WTA really leaning into, because they know that she's a potential superstar, and they're making sure from a different part of the world. They open up the whole of Asia with her, and they're looking at doing a tournament, potentially a 125, a WTA 125 in the Philippines potentially. But it'll be interesting because she's actually at the moment outside the top 50. But if she were to dip below that, she probably wouldn't be able to play that tournament because of the rules I think the WTA have. So I don't think they allow players who are within the top 50 to play WTA 125s. I think it's 250s they can play, but it's only 2 of them with a wild card.
Do they not do wild cards for those events?
For 250s they do.
Not
I
for
don't know if they do for 125s. I assume they don't, because only 2 wild cards. Maybe it's the 1 potentially. I'd need to double check that. But also asked her just about Krejcikova, like what does she think of playing her? Has she watched her play much? Is she going to study her a lot because it's on Tuesday? Or is she going to focus more on her in-game, like strategically, like how does she approach these types of matches? She said that, she will probably look at Krejcikova a little bit with her team, but mainly she'll focus on herself. And it's interesting because it depends on the player. Some players are super fixated on, this is how my opponent plays, this is how I need to combat them. Others will think, okay, I just need to do what I do well and I will get the win. And then some, of course, are a mix. And obviously one of the examples here is Yannick Sinner, who used to say that I used to dream about and think about Carlos Alcaraz all the time after he lost to him, right? 3 times last year, the only 3 losses he had. Well, apart from the one I think against Tsitsipas, but he had an incredible record against all the other players, and then with Carlos he just couldn't beat him. So it's interesting. Depends on, I guess, also not just the player, but also maybe the matchup as well that they're thinking about. Was there anyone that kind of stood out to you, or any interesting
I
things
think
that came up?
in terms of the interviews today, they were more straightforward because Swiatek doesn't usually give much away either. She's very much reserved. Pegula, she was quite
funny. Yeah.
she was quite funny in her press conference because I mean, she's come off a very good title, beating Swiatek. She was a bit more shocked of how Swiatek was putting herself down after that final loss, saying, you're not a lost cause at the end of the day. I mean, you won Junior Wimbledon, you've made the quarters here before, and I mean, you made the final against me just yesterday. So realistically, she was laughing a little bit about that. She was also discussing, she mentioned briefly the best of 5-set aspect. I wanted to touch upon that. I didn't manage to get that question in. I wanted to, but there was too many American journalists who were ahead of me. But other than that, I mean, João Fonseca was very good because he was talking about how people at these events and people in general, journalists in general, try and put a lot of pressure on these players, especially the young players, to succeed. Do the Rafa-like steps, continuously build upon every single tournament and really just showcase that there is no limits. But Fonseca is very, very down to earth. He says, it's a process. I'm learning day in and day out. I'm not I'm not trying to rush anything. Things will happen in due course, and that's something he was talking about. This being his first full grass court season, and it's one of those times where we should be a little bit more relaxed in terms of the expectations for these players. We can't put too much pressure on them. And Fonseca was, I asked him, what positives did you take? Any positives from the match that even though you lost against Taylor Fritz in Eastbourne, it was a 7-5 in the third set loss, so it was a very tight loss. You take any positives from it? And he's like, it was a loss, but there are positives because I am coming in from basically ground zero here,
100%.
And the only way that I can learn is to win and to lose, especially on grass because you've only got basically a month of tournaments that if you lose in the first or second round of a tournament, that's 1 week gone. Then you've got 2 weeks left. So it's not really something that you can say, I'm going to get 10 matches under my belt before I go into Wimbledon, unless you're reaching the final of 2 events and maybe playing a third one if you're not getting that many matches under your belt. So it's interesting to see. But in terms of, I think those are the interviews we've covered so far today. There are some good matches tomorrow. Yeah,
there's loads. And actually, before we get onto that, I just wanted to quickly mention, because you made a really good point about Fonseca, and I forgot to mention that when I asked Eala about expectations, she actually, you're saying about managing our expectations as media, not putting too much pressure, but she interestingly said, and I guess it's the type of response you'd expect, she said that actually for her it's a very good thing because it means that she's doing the right thing. She's doing good things in the sport at the moment. So the media coverage she's getting, the reason why people want to talk to her is because she's getting results. Yeah. Right? And that's the same with Fonseca. So I'm sure he also thinks the same. But as you say, it's a fine line between asking them the questions and putting too much pressure on them that they feel like actually they're getting drowned by the coverage. So that's a really good point. But tomorrow there's some really good matches. I mean, just looking at it now, I mean, I don't know what you think, but I think the best match of the day, before we even talk about the others, is Rune Jarry. I was going to say there's going to be 2 good matches, I think, tomorrow. Yeah? What's the other one for you? Rune Jarry and Zverev Rinderknech. Yeah, Rinderknech is a bit of a sleeper, to be fair. I agree. Yeah, he's dangerous on grass. He's got a big serve. He's got all of the characteristics to do well on grass. Yeah. Big serve. He comes forward a lot as well. Good at the net. Transitions well. So he's going to make it hard for Zverev, who loves to stand back behind the baseline. And on grass, like we saw with Medvedev, he struggles sometimes on grass, although he's a bit more adept. For Zverev, he does not like taking the ball low. And because he likes standing far back behind the base on return, he's going to have to at times. And I think Rinderknech might be able to pick him off of the net. So that could be an upset alert, I agree, 100%. And I think Nicholas Jarry, who I saw in qualies, who I think it's fair to say is playing he's playing well above his ranking right now because he is a lot better than what his ranking suggests. He's had a barren run of form. But I saw him in qualies. He was super positive, talked to me about the fact that Wimbledon was his favourite tournament. He's come here with his grandfather, used to bring him here, and he's genuinely loves it. He said, at Wimbledon, depending on if you're one of these people, you might like or dislike this comment, but he said, When I used to come to Wimbledon, I love it because everyone's, walking around, they're socialising, but also they're not here just to get drunk. They want to actually watch tennis. They're here because they're real tennis fans. So, probably a bit of a slight on the other slams, but he loves it here. He's got a big serve. He's got a big game, so clearly suits the surface, and he came through qualifying really easily. Rune has had, it's tough to really put into words what his season's been like. It hasn't been horrific. He won Barcelona. What a great win against Alcaraz. But that's been one of the very few highs that he's had this year. And it's just a shame he hasn't been able to find the form. He still is I remember sitting with you last year and talking about the fact that Rune lacks identity because he has so many different ways of playing.
Yeah,
but he just doesn't know what is my base?
Yeah.
Like, what is my plan A? He doesn't know. He has plan A, B, C, D, E, but they're all equally utilised. Alcaraz, even someone who's got so many different ways of playing, he knows this is my plan. When I come onto grass, I'm going to play this way. And if it's not working, then I can play this way. But there's a few tactics that he will utilise, patterns that he will continually use because he knows they're winning plays for him. They give him the advantage in matchups. Rune, I still think he doesn't know exactly how he wants to play. So that's a big, big issue. And he's had a couple of coaches that haven't worked. He's back with Mouratoglou. You tell me, you went to Mouratoglou Academy. Did you see him? What do you think of Rune as well?
No, I didn't go to Mouratoglou Academy. I went to
you were in Rafa Nadal Academy.
Academy. So
sorry,
maybe I could have given my opinion on Eala. But no, I think it's exactly as you say. I spoke to Mike James as well at the US Open last year.
Yeah.
I ran into him and we spoke for a good half an hour, and it was definitely, even his opinion was like, he's got so many aspects to his game that he's got. It's sort of like a Carlos Alcaraz. You've got so many different things you can do really well.
Yeah.
It's just which ones do you choose at the right time?
100%.
So it's more of that aspect. I think it's going to be a tough one because I remember Jarry here. I believe it was in 2023.
You're right. Yes.
He put a very good matchup.
He took a set off at Alcaraz and as a tiebreaker in the race.
It was a very tight matchup, that one. So he knows how to play on this surface. He's got all the weapons for it. We have slept on one match though.
There's two. I think there's two actually. You tell me your one first.
So Taylor Fritz against
Mpeshi
Pereka.
He's guys, if you haven't seen him, I saw him up close at qualies. I was telling you earlier that in qualies it's so intimate and you can stand and basically high five the players. I almost got hit by one of his serves, his slice serves, which obviously is a slower serve for him. He is just a monster on grass. He was a lucky loser in the end as well last year.
Yeah.
But obviously lost in the round of 16 to Lorenzo Musetti, but beat some good players en route. He's got the best serve on tour, I think, hands down at the moment. Opelka's come back, but he's maybe not played enough matches for us to talk about him being the best right now. Look, I think the one positive thing for Pericard is that he's improved his ground game. His forehand can be a weapon. The one-hander is a bit of a liability, especially on grass because it stays so low. He'll probably end up slicing a lot because he just doesn't have a lot of confidence hitting through it, which is going to be a bit of an issue because he's so tall. He has been coming forward more to the net. I think against Fritz, he's going to have to try and rush the net a lot because Fritz from the back of the court kill him. So he's going to have to serve well. Hope that Fritz is not the best returner, to be honest. He relies a lot on his serve as well. And if Pericard can just get a few block returns in and see what we can do, potentially that's got tiebreakers written all over it, one or two, then maybe he plays better in the tiebreakers. Who knows? But that's a tough one for Fritz. He's just come off Eastbourne win, but this is a tough first round. The other one I was going to mention actually was someone that you talked to today was Fonseca, but he's playing Jacob Fernley.
Yeah.
And that is no easy first round. You could argue it's a 50-50 given how inexperienced Fonseca is on grass. Fernley's going to have the crowd behind him. He's used to Fonseca having the crowd very much in favour.
The Brazilians are everywhere, though.
They are everywhere, but I think the British crowd surely have to be. If they're not, that would be shocking. But you might be right.
Sometimes the British crowd, it depends which type of British
quiet.
crowd you get.
Yeah,
so
true.
They can be a little bit quiet.
Yeah, well, they're on court 1. So, I mean, he's on a big court as well, to be fair.
Yeah, true. So that one's going to be interesting. Fernley has, I believe he's won a single match at every event he's played this year.
Yeah.
I might be incorrect there, or he's done it at most events. He's not lost in the first round of every of any event this year so far.
He's a solid player.
He's a good player, but you're playing against Joao Fonseca, who has been getting in the good practice sessions against some big names like Carlos Alcaraz.
Yeah.
So
I think it's the Fritz loss that actually gives me the most confidence that actually he should probably be the slight favourite.
Yeah.
Because it's tough to really know from the practice sessions like how it's gone sometimes, especially in his position. He's still so young. Carlos might say to him, "I just want to do 2 cross 1 line." They could do that for half an hour, 40 minutes, and then finish. Right? You watched it, so you can tell me better, but. I think, for him, it's a real positive that he's come up against a player like Fritz, who went on to win Eastbourne, managed to run him close, and it just shows that he's managed to adapt quite well. The positive thing for him is that on grass, movement is important, but it's not as important as it is on clay. I think for him, he's lacking a bit of that explosive movement that Sinner used to lack until the last couple of years. Bit of physicality, but what he does have is pure ball striking.
Yeah.
And on grass, it's like paramount. Like it's almost like a paradise for him. He loves hitting hard, hitting winners, just going for it. And on grass, he's got that. He's got a decent slice serve as well, and a backhand slice. So it'll be interesting to see how he gets on. He's got variety in his game, so I guess we'll see how he gets on. That's definitely one to watch. On the women's side, I'm just having a look. There are a few. I mean, obviously Raducanu plays against a very young player who's a wild card from the UK as well. Ming Zhu, she's only 17 years old. I actually saw her walking as I was driving into Wimbledon.
Oh, okay.
With her family. They must live close, maybe. So.
Well, they rent. She might live near Wimbledon, but usually players even stay in houses right next to Wimbledon. Anyways. Yeah. So whether she lives here or around here, or whether she's just renting somewhere,
exactly.
It's something that is just quite standard nowadays.
Yeah.
I would say that match is going to be interesting because obviously Brits versus Brits.
Yeah.
But the most interesting match on the women's side for the first day, unfortunately, I don't think there's that many other matches which really get me sort of...
The juice is flowing.
Yeah, exactly. I think you might get, Siniakova against Zheng might be a good one, but really it's Paula Badosa against Katie Bolter. I mean, Badosa, the higher ranked player,
struggling with injuries,
but on her day can beat anyone. Katie Bolter obviously just lost her number 1 Brit ranking to Emma Raducanu, so maybe she's also got a point to prove here.
She also lost to Harriet Dart last year. I think she was the favourite on paper to win that in like a third round maybe, so she'll be looking to make some sort of run. And if she beats Badosa, like what statement that would be.
Yeah, exactly.
Or are they on court? They're on centre court.
They're on centre court.
Yeah, so I mean, big opportunity for her. For Badosa, I mean, it's a big opportunity for her to just say, look, I'm here, as well. Like, don't mess me about. But
maybe she'll go deeper this year than she did, than Tsitsipas did last year as well. So maybe it'll keep going.
Oh man, yeah. Hopefully not. Not because I don't like Badosa, but because I just feel for Tsitsipas is a shame. There's a few other decent ones. Vekic is playing Kimberly Burrow, who's a really talented young Australian. That could be a tough match for Vekic. Potential upset alert. Jabeur should come through against Tomova, but we've seen a Jabeur who's beaten Paolini recently, and a Jabeur who's been losing really easy matches recently as well. So it just depends on the one that turns up. Hopefully she's near her best. Sonia Cartel from the UK had a decent run last year.
Yeah.
She's playing Ostapenko in the first round. That's a tough first round match. Yeah, I mean, I think she's going to have to come out and play some really, really good tennis and hope that she can frustrate Ostapenko into a lot of errors. Ostapenko had a good run last year. Keys has got Rusa, should get through that. I'm just having a look at the rest of the matches. Oh, yeah, so the one that I think is a sleeper, and probably a lot of people won't know about it, but obviously myself and Auntie and the Ashes will know because we were at qualies, is Carson Branstein's playing Arena Sabalenka. Now,
Yeah.
if you just imagine, Liam, so Carson Branstein is like a Canadian Rebekina.
Okay.
That's her style of play.
Okay.
Massive serve, really big off both wings, like a lot of power, and she came through the college system. So she has the reason why you haven't heard of her is because she's only really turned pro this year. This is her first proper year on tour. So she has come through college. She was super confident, like super confident in the interviews. She was talking to me and Anthony, and I think she mentioned that she feels like her level on court is always better than her opponents. Like she feels like she's always the better player on court.
Yeah.
And that's very interesting. Like,
It's a good mentality to have in terms of because you always want to strive for better.
Yeah. But what's interesting is though Sabalenka is probably a player that thinks exactly the same after having the French Open. So it's going to be interesting to see how Branstein handles it. I've seen on her Instagram she's been like very positive about the draw, and she did say in an interview with us that whenever she's played a bad point or whenever something's gone wrong, she might get angry with herself. She might shout like Andy Murray, as she said, but she'll say if you notice the next point is always really good.
Yeah.
Like she just switches. She knows, okay, well, get over it, done. So that shows a real good mental strength, which I think is going to be key. So I think it's a really tough ask, let's be honest. But
you never know, though.
Considering that Sabalenka probably hasn't seen her play as well, the first set, you don't never know. She could take the first set, maybe lose in 3, something like that. You just don't know. And on grass as well, it's just, we know on grass there's so many
different varieties.
A lot of upsets on the women's side. Last year, Krejcikova won. She was unexpected because of her results. Then the year before that, Vondrousova. So who knows? I mean, Vondrousova's playing well. She's playing a seed in... who's she playing? She's playing a seed in Kessler. Should get through that, though, I think. She's been playing quite well. Osaka's got Tara Gibson, should win. And then Anna Simone's playing Putintseva, who, of course, I think it was Putintseva, right? Who had the
issue.
Zachary.
Yes.
The Zachary.
The non-eye contact handshake, and she curtsied.
She curtsied to Zachary.
I mean...
Oh man, that was
a fun clip to watch. But no, it's definitely, I think.
Yeah, and Nisimo should get through that as well, to be honest.
Yeah, it's a stacked draw, and I think we have to remember that there are 256 singles players.
It's crazy
right now in the draw.
Yeah,
anything can happen.
Yeah,
in the next 2 days, half of these players will be out.
Yeah, exactly.
Packing their bags, going back home. So and we're talking about Wimbledon here. There will be upsets.
100%.
There are every year. There's never a year. The great Roger Federer has been upset here.
Yeah.
Rafa Nadal has been upset multiple times here. Novak Djokovic has been upset here.
Serena.
You're talking about a tournament where if those players can get upset, anyone can get upset.
100%.
So it's gonna be an interesting fortnight. Yeah. Any closing remarks as we go into first day tomorrow?
I mean, all I would say to you guys listening is if you haven't looked at the draw, don't just look at the first round matches. If you can look at some of the projected paths or even just look at where people will potentially play, you will see the draw is stacked, not just for the women's but the men's side.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at Draper's draw, for example,
Draper's draw is mental.
It is horrific.
Yeah.
It is probably the worst draw I've ever seen. As in, if he were to go on and win that and play those players who's projected to play, man, I mean, we're talking about one of the greatest runs. I mean, he's playing Bublik third round, who he just lost to in the French. Bublik's better on grass. He's just won Hala. He's got Djokovic quarterfinal, Sinner semi-final, Alcaraz final. I mean, just forget about it. And I think he's playing Baez in the first round. That should be okay. But from the second round onwards, I think it's just carnage for him. So on the women's, I think there's some second round matchups potentially that are going to be ridiculous. So, I mean, definitely tune into the first week. The guys obviously will have a lot of interviews. Liam's going to be here and Anthony all the way up until Thursday. Then Liam will carry on with me from Friday onwards. And yeah, there's going to be a lot to cover. They're going to be doing the Wimbledon daily pods as we're doing right now. And also, we'll be doing our interviews as well. So, any questions that you guys have, actually, is probably a good shout. Leave them in the comment section below. Let us know for specific players. It doesn't have to be necessarily for tomorrow, but if there's any specific questions you've got, maybe something we've missed, something that we can use, then feel free to put it in the comments and we'll see if we can get to them. Liam, are you excited for tomorrow?
Very excited. The first 2 days are going to be extremely hot, so players will have to deal with that. Last year was very much a
cool, wasn't it?
Mix and match in terms. Some days you got mid-20s, some days you got rain throughout the entire day.
Yeah.
This year, I mean, there will be a couple rainy days this upcoming week, it looks like, but the first 2 days extremely hot.
Yeah.
First round can be some upsets. I'm hoping to see some really fun matches. We're going to have a lot of coverage, a lot of interviews coming your way. So, as always, make sure to check out all of our platforms if you want to keep up to date. Especially because we usually try and get in a lot of questions, as we're very eager in that sense.
And
as Fizan said, leave your questions in the comments on Twitter, on Instagram, anywhere. We'll try and get to them in the next few pods. And thank you guys for listening in on any platform.
Before we actually wrap up, I need to ask you, actually.
Oh, no, I'm scared of this.
Yeah, no. So, who are your predicted winners?
I mean, we discussed this yesterday with Anthony.
Okay, so who did you say?
I mean, Anthony said Alcaraz and Sabalenka.
Okay.
I jokingly said, well, we can't really predict the number ones. Sorry, he said Sinner and Sabalenka.
Number ones,
we can't predict the number ones all the time. In my mind, Alcaraz wins because I don't see Djokovic being able to stop him.
Yeah, okay.
Because he's beaten him the last 2 years and he's only kept on improving. Sinner could potentially stop him. Sinner bounces back very fast from these things.
Yeah. He beat him on grass in 2022, didn't he?
Exactly. He's the last person to beat Alcaraz.
On grass?
No, at Wimbledon.
At Wimbledon.
Because Draper beat him on grass last year at Queen's. But I still think Alcaraz will win it. On the women's side, I'd love for Goff to win it to sort of close the circle of this is the tournament where I first sort of shown and made myself known to the world. But realistically, it's going to be a player who has a little bit more slice and variety to their game. Yeah. So I wouldn't be too shocked if Pegula makes a deep run. Okay. But I wouldn't be shocked if Rybakina also shows up again because she, last year she lost to Krejcikova. Yeah. And that was a tight match.
Yeah, she got bad head-to-head with her.
Exactly. So it wasn't a great matchup, but had she won that match, I think she would have been able to win the title. Yeah. I'm between Rybakina and Goff on that sense.
Really? Okay. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. I think, it's difficult. I think when I did the draw previews, I went quite boring and I ended up picking a Alcaraz Sinner final. I picked a Sinner to win, actually. In my mind, I think Alcaraz has a better chance of winning because of his style of play. Won it 2 times. In my head, I just think it's so tough, surely, for him to win it 3 years in a row. And not just 3 years in a row, but to win 2 Channel Slams back to back. The last person to do that was Bjorn Borg. Yeah. So back to back, that is, right? So that's insane. Djokovic hasn't done it. Federer hasn't done it. Nadal hasn't done it. They've obviously done it throughout their careers, but they haven't done it back to back. Yeah. Now, I get that the field maybe isn't as strong as it was back then, but I just think it's a really, really tough ask. In saying that, I mean, he's looking good. There doesn't seem to be any issues, really. So I think it's going to have to be someone playing some really inspired tennis to beat him. And I agree, I think Sinner's got a better chance than Djokovic. I do think Djokovic has a better chance of beating Alcaraz than Sinner. Mm-hmm. I just think the matchup is so bad for him now with Sinner. I just think it just doesn't match up well anymore for him. Sinner is just a younger version of him at the moment, to be honest. Then on the men's side, I'll stick with Sinner. On the women's side, I actually went with Anthony. I went Sabalenka, Rybakina in the final. Okay. And I went Sabalenka. No, sorry, I didn't actually. Sorry, I take it back. I said Rybakina.
Oh, so we're sort of
I said,
semi there.
So we basically, all 3 of us have picked one of the others' predictions, which is interesting. Yeah, I went with Rybakina because I was very, very pleased with the way she played against Sabalenka in Berlin, I think it was.
Although she lost.
Yeah, although she lost. She had 4 match points. She should have won it. She didn't. Fine. She comes across the type of person like a Sinner who will get over that quite quickly. Yeah. And I think it'll just make her mentally more hungry to want to go on and start destroying people. So I think she will get through. And I think my pick was a Sabalenka Rybakina in the final, and then Rybakina to get revenge. That would be heartbreaking for Sabalenka if she makes 3 Grand Slam finals in a row and doesn't win a single one.
Yeah.
Because in her mind, she'll be thinking, I should have won 3 slams this year, and instead I'm sitting here with none. But let's see. I mean, as you said, maybe it could be someone left field. Vondrousova is playing well again. Pegula. Look, Pegula seems like she's a real laugh. She'd be great to sit down and talk to for 20 minutes about stuff. So if we ever had the opportunity, that'd be great. It's a shame that I think she's maybe just lacking, and this could be famous last words, just a little bit of that extra quality, like just that one standout weapon in her game. She's very consistent. She's got a lot of qualities. I just don't know if there's one outstanding attribute. Like for Goff, we know her physicality, her defensive capabilities. For Pegula, she has them, but it's not to the same degree.
Yeah.
She's got good hitting ability, not to the same degree as a Rybakina or Sabalenka. So, and I feel like on grass, you need that something extra maybe. But let's see. She just beat Swiatek, looked good. But yeah, those are my predictions anyway. Let's see. Let's see who's right.
We'll be completely wrong. It'll be the number 235 in the world who's coming through qualifying.
It'll be Zeppieri.
And then it will be Thiago Seyboth-Wild on the men's side. So that's the quality you get from Quality Shot, guys.
yeah, we'll see. We might have to change our predictions. Actually, what I need to ask you quickly before we wrap up, Krejcikova Eala, who do you think is going to win that? Do you think Eala has a chance?
I think Krejcikova will win that one.
Yeah.
Unless the injury has something to do with it.
Yeah, I think it's a tough ask.
If it's an injury-free, fine physicality thing, Krejcikova wins that one. Especially because Eala has just arrived. To Wimbledon.
Yeah.
Yeah, you played on grass, but the grass here is a little bit different.
It is different.
And you're still riding that emotion of losing a match with 4 championship points. So that, and she's still young in that sense. Krejcikova is a multiple-time Grand Slam champion, so I'm going with her.
Yeah. I think I would like to go left field and just pick Eala because I like going crazy with a lot of my predictions. But I agree. I think it's a really big ask.
Yeah,
the tall order on centre court. It'll be her first ever main draw match at Wimbledon. She's playing on centre court.
Yeah,
a lot of pressure. I know she says she's handling it well, but Krejcikova will know that this is a new experience with her.
Yeah,
and she'll make it awkward for Eala. So I think it's a real tall order. But let's see. Guys, thanks for tuning in. Appreciate each and every one of you. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. If you're watching on YouTube, if not, give us a follow on podcast platforms. And Liam and Anthony will bring you the podcast tomorrow.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. We'll see you guys tomorrow.